Statement. Wow, just we're happy to be here. Feel like we've had a really good season, especially after going through a tough stretch where we were able to regroup and finish the season much like we did last year, where we got hot. We feel at the right time, and we understand being a part of this tournament. Just getting into it is really difficult for teams. And now it's a whole new season for everybody that's in the tournament. Everybody's got belief and confidence, and everybody's trying to just survive and advance and get one more game.
All right, Mike, want to kick things off? He's right there.
Mike Harrington, Buffalo News. Eric, we saw a lot of your social media presence yesterday, giving it up to the Bills and Sabres and such. Just how much of the tournament is about embracing strange places, strange arenas, and having new experiences, and having these guys understand that's all part of it. You still have to do the job, even though that maybe none of them have ever been anywhere near Buffalo before. Yeah,
I don't think all of the teams are really locked in. I'm not going to say that we're more locked in or doing more prep than anybody else, because I have tremendous respect for all the coaches, but we're not doing less. This will be our second practice for the day. We've already had several film sessions, but having said that, they're student athletes at the end of the day, and you want them to have life experiences. So going to Niagara Falls is, there's a reason. We were just in the back talking about the Sabres, and, some of our guys didn't know that some of the historical significance of what that NHL organization has done. We told them about one of the great hockey goalies of all time. So we're back there even in the locker room trying to educate them and have fun with it. So certainly we think it's a really big part and an important part for us to embrace wherever we are. I mean, having fun with the, Bills, and I wore the shirt, and guys are asking me, do I have a favorite player on that team? And a lot of guys did not know who the Buffalo Braves were, and I was able to kind of give the significance of them moving to San Diego, and so yeah, I think it's really important. By the way, Ernie D is one of my favorite all-time players.
Coach, you mentioned how this is kind of the start of a new season. How valuable is it to have the returning experience that you have in the NCAA tournament, your guys who were there last year, and then others like Trey Wade and Chris who have been there before?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of discussion about how old teams are, which I think there's a great deal of significance in that. Obviously, Vermont, fourth oldest team in college basketball, and then there's a separate side of us having over 300 minutes played in the NCAA tournament with player experience. So I think that both are very valuable. So I think there's significance in it.
All right. Give a question back here, and we'll come to Brian.
Coach, Mookie Hawkins, Buffalo Sports 1080. Welcome to Buffalo. Have you told your players about the quarterback in Buffalo by any chance?
I mean, I've certainly talked to the staff about him.
So what is it going to take, basically to put some of the ingredients together to cut down the nets here in Buffalo?
I think the biggest thing right now is us us continuing to work on our preparation for Vermont. They're so well coached. They really understand their roles. They have not lost in a long time. Their last loss, they had two players that were sick. It was an overtime game. So this is a team that's playing with great confidence. You can see it and hear it in their interviews, both with their head coach and their players. And, I think everybody that steps into this thing, I mean, I've talked about, even myself as a player at the University of San Diego playing against Auburn. I mean, we were a low seed, and if our point guard, not me, I was not in the game, but if our starting point guard doesn't get the ball hung up on his hip, we probably upset Auburn and they had some NBA players, Frank Ford and some guys on their team that were really talented. But this is a whole new, that's why this tournament is so awesome, because you just never know what's going to happen. And last year we fell behind early, and we were able to have a really good second half. And so it's a 40-minute game, and you've got to understand that as a program.
Okay, Brian.
Coach, Brian Shinaki, Channel 2, here in Buffalo. Kind of piggybacking off of the opening question that Mike had. You come out here, you embrace the city of Buffalo, you go viral with your Buffalo sports drip, then you get kind of a response back from the Bills on social media. First, how cool is it that they're able to embrace you back? I saw you pin that tweet from the Bills. And then on top of that, did you grow up a sports fan in Buffalo at all, or did you follow specific players? Can you kind of tie that all in together?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody my age understands the significance of all the Super Bowls that, didn't go the Bills' way, but obviously, Marv Levy, I mean, he's a guy that I've studied, and when you're younger and you watch teams win a lot like they did, and their logo, growing up in San Diego, I mean, their logo was cool, but the Bills thing started during the pandemic, where I had gotten some NBA teams to send some masks and T-shirts, and I'd wear a different one every day to practice, and then I was able to talk to the team about, hey, here's some history on this particular team, whether it's the Boston Celtics or the Lakers or whatever, and we were able to have some fun dialogue. And the Bills were awesome. They sent me, which is the same shirts I wore the other day, they sent me a couple different shirts and some different masks. So I was able to break it out when we found out we were headed here to Buffalo.
Meant to be.
And Michael went there.
Hey, Eric, how you doing? Hope your shoulder's feeling better. A decent Stanley, man, they waited 9 combined years to get here. How happy are you that, and they've obviously been key guys for you. Just how happy are you they're getting to play in the NCAA tournament, and how would you maybe sum up what they've meant to the team this year and helping you get to this point?
No, I mean, really happy for them, because if we weren't playing in this tournament, then they could call me a liar, because part of the recruiting pitch was we are going to the NCAA tournament. We don't know what's going to happen when we get there, but we have the talent, we have the culture that if you guys come and come to Arkansas, we're gonna give you an opportunity to play in this tournament, because if we don't make it, it's going to be self-inflicted. But both those guys have been absolutely phenomenal for us. You look at their seasons. There was a time where, I took Stanley out of the starting lineup, and then he worked his way back into it. And quite frankly, both of them, we need them to have good games to win in this tournament. We need both of them to have good games in order to win tomorrow. That's how important they are. DC's been a guy that we don't run any plays for, and he scores the basketball. And Stanley's done an incredible job of scoring it in the mid-range, scoring it in transition, and then also scoring the basketball from three-point range when defenses collapse on our dribble drive.
Okay, we'll go back here.
Coach, JD, J. Will, and Stanley Mude said that this Vermont team kind of reminds them of a UNI that they played way back early in the season. Not as fast as the SEC type of team. After playing, 20-plus SEC games against that fast pace that most teams like to play, how difficult is it to kind of teach more of a half-pace game, a half-court game, and kind of slow everything down?
Well, not all the SEC teams like to play fast. Texas A&M plays pretty doggone slow. But that's why that's why we scheduled our non-conference the way that we did. We felt it was important to be able to play teams that play a whole bunch of different styles. And we were able to do that, whether it's, Northern Iowa, whether it was Mercer, that, forced us to see some of our holes and to try to get guys to buy in with some of our defensive concepts. And along the way, it's like a roller coaster. There's ups and downs. And when we weren't doing what we were told, we didn't play well. And then we figured out the last 2 months of the season how we want to play on both sides of the ball.
We're here.
Hey, Eric, earlier today, I asked Eric Henderson at South Dakota State just kind of what he remembered about Stan when Stan was at South Dakota. Mentioned a couple big games, but that this season he feels like Stan's really improved defensively more so than anything. Just what improvements has he made specifically, or like how has he evolved throughout the year to become, I guess, one of your, better on-ball defenders?
Yeah, I think Scotty. I mean, Stanley's improved in a lot of areas. I mean, he was, not much of a defensive guy early on. Now he's one of our best defenders. I mean, because of his length, his athleticism, his anticipation, his toughness, his ability to defensive rebound. He's been assigned to some really difficult matchups, especially in SEC play, where he's going up against guys that can really score the ball, guys that are going to be playing beyond college. And he's done an incredible job defensively. And then the other area that he's much improved upon is, earlier in the year he was our kind of playing the backup five for us. When Jalen would come out, we would slide him from the power forward spot or the four spot over to the backup five. And now he's basically played for us small forward, and that's when we became a better defensive team, a longer team, a tougher team, and a way better defensive rebounding team. So he's gone from guarding fours and fives to now guarding twos and threes, and he's done a great job, stayed out of foul trouble, and altered a lot of shots for opposing teams' perimeter players.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff Goodman. You've hit the portal for years now. You've done a good job with the portal. This year with the one-time transfer rule kicking in, how do you think that's affected you guys and kind of nationally with kids not having to sit out?
Yeah, Jeff, I think that it's kind of been a game changer. There's been a lot of coaching changes, and as my wife and I were talking, it's much like the NBA now. As a coach, because of the ability to change your roster quickly. Obviously, in the NBA, it's free agency, and then you might have a draft pick or two. Well, college basketball has turned into a little bit where, a lot of programs are only taking one or two freshmen, much like a first-rounder and a second-rounder, and then they're filling in with free agents, whether it be a transfer who's a second-year player, or maybe a grad transfer. So I think it's leveled the playing field. I look at Vermont's team, and they have, Finn Sullivan from the University of San Diego, who I just found out a couple minutes ago that my son sat next to him in a class a couple years ago, my younger son. They have a George Washington transfer. So I think that across the board, it's really changed the complexion. I mean, if you watch Big 12 games and you see what Texas has done with their roster, and you see what Texas Tech has done, and Texas Tech's done an incredible job of finding the Davion Warrens and Adonis Arms and guys that maybe played at a lower level that have been able to contribute. So I think it's really changed everything in college basketball, meaning coaches and longevity and so on.
Do you like the fact that kids don't have to sit out? Like it took you guys a little while to get going this year, where normally maybe you have that kid for a year in your system and you're able to kind of get it going a little bit quicker, maybe?
Yeah, I think, Jeff, that the sit-out player, I look at the success stories, and I'm only talking about, the small sample size that I have. Caleb Martin, Cody Martin. The sit-out year was incredible. So many agents were telling him to leave Nevada. And we were telling them the benefits and the holes in their game. And we'll see what type of salaries those guys that were, quote-unquote, too old when they stayed an extra year, and how much it helped them. Because it's really about, at the next level, longevity. And those two guys made incredibly smart decisions coming back to school when everybody was telling them they would be too old. But the people that were telling them that have never sat in a draft room and don't know what the conversations are like about second-rounders. I look at J.D. Note and how his sit-out year, how much that's impacted his growth as a player, and maybe what that growth wouldn't have looked like without him. He learned a whole new position, and there's a lot to go into that. And I look at, Jordan Caroline's sit-out year and the impact it's having on his European career. So I miss personally the player development year because I think it's really good for the player. But I do think movement, player freedom is the way it should be. It really should be, because that's the way of our world right now. When I grew up, everybody went to one high school. Now guys go 3 or 4 high schools. When I was growing up, well, there wasn't even AAU then, but there was Junior Olympics. You played on one Junior Olympic team, and that was it. Now guys are playing for 7, 8 AAU teams, over the course of a 4-year time frame. So that's how college basketball should be. You should have the ability to make your own decision, just as any student. If my son's at the University of San Diego and not playing basketball and he wants to go to USC or UCLA, all he does is apply to school, and if he gets in, he can go. And so I do think that it's the way of the world right now, and you have to adapt, and it's good for the student athlete.
All right, quickly, we have time for 2 more. We'll go here, and then we'll finish up with Mike over here.
Coach, it seems like a lot of people, especially some national media folks, like Vermont as a possible upset pick. I just wonder what you make of that, and if you talk to the team about that at all, and what you say, if so.
Do you think I talked to the team about it? Yeah. They've seen all the clips, and they'll continue to see the clips, just as they did last year. So yeah, it's my wife continues to remind me it's not everybody. But yeah, I mean, I think, any way, shape, or form that you can motivate your team, that's our job to try to figure out every button that you can possibly push to get your team in the right mental frame.
And finally, Mike right here.
Eric, Mike Harrington, Buffalo News again. We just had Dan Hurley in here, obviously great family coaching lineage. You're up next. Your father, obviously, we know about. But as you're now getting to the point where you've done this for a long time at so many levels, what do you still take from him potentially, or other mentors, even at this stage of your career, compared to when you were a younger coach?
You mean from my father or
Yeah.
from Coach Hurley? My dad?
Yeah.
I mean, I think about my dad all the time. I'll think about my dad even in the flow of a game. We'll take an absurd shot because I give our guys a lot of freedom offensively, and I'll pound the table, and then I'll kind of chuckle to myself and say, my dad's up there thinking, that's an absurd shot. What are you doing? You're a horrific coach. I'll think about, what he call a timeout now. I'm constantly, he was my idol, my best friend, and whether it's during the season and I'm home alone, and I've told our local media that we made a change in the starting lineup. There wasn't a single coach that brought it up. There wasn't a player, because we asked for player feedback. Nobody brought it up. It was me sitting alone late one night asking what my dad would do when we struggled, and he said, put the 5 toughest, 5 biggest, 5 longest people out there regardless of position. And that's how we stumbled into the lineup of being so big, because his teams at the University of Minnesota and even with the Timberwolves were always, big, strong players, even at the off guard or the point guard position. And that's what we've done. We've changed our team. We kind of slid everybody down a spot, when in college basketball, everybody has, kind of gone the opposite way. And this group's done a good job. When people try to go small against us, it actually falls right into our lap, because we do have good athleticism, even when we're a taller team.
It's that time of year as college basketball takes center stage with the tournament finally upon us. If you're looking to wager this year, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all your updated odds and info, along with great contests, including the bracket contest, where you can have a chance to take home the top prize. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's BLEAV. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. BetOnline, where the game starts.